But I think the interesting thing that many people miss is DeFi is great, but most institutions will not touch it because it is not compliant. It's accessible, unfortunately, by everyone, right? For them, it's unfortunate. For us, it's great. So what's important to understand is having a platform that's capable of sort of adding those compliant guards or rails is very important for people to come and interact. So I think that's where Injective comes in and is very special because we created this RWA module where you can customize the parameters for these DeFi rails. So with this, we've seen way more institutional interest come in.
Today's guests are the Injective co-founder and CEO, Eric Chen, and the head of BD, Mirza Uddin. This is the first quarterly webinar that we do with Token Relations, and then it's also a part of the podcast. I'm excited to have them on the show today to talk about a lot of recent developments, including Injective's new rebranding, the Helix AI Index, I think I said that correctly, as well as other things that the team's focusing on the AI front, real-world assets, and more. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Excited to have you. As I mentioned, there was a rebrand. I want to start by talking about that. Eric, Mirza, you guys just announced this morning Injective launched a new rebrand. From what I saw, there was a new logo. There's also some talk about the ninjas. Kind of walk us through why this happened.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, it's a very exciting time for us. So Injective initially was created back in 2018. And when it was first created, it was mainly meant to be a platform more for traders and trading. Over time, this vision sort of expanded much further to include developers, institutions, and it made sense to evolve the brand in general. So we actually did a larger rebrand back in 2021 where we changed the logo, where we sort of said, okay, we're now this layer 1 blockchain, and we have all these developments. And then after we had built that, we saw lots of different people coming to us, whether it be different institutions, different types of dApps that we didn't even think about beyond just trading. So things like lending, things like options, things like AI. So we wanted to sort of refine the brand further. So yes, there's a new logo that's been more refined that can be used in different sizes, different colors. It's much more versatile, I would say. And on top of that, we wanted the community to sort of have a head start with the brand as well. So we created, we have a ninja mascot because the word ninja has the letters I and J in it. So the community came up with this sort of like creative word where they rallied behind this mascot. But previously we never had a mascot. So we wanted to give that mascot an identity as well. So with the brand, you also see a new ninja go live with the brand.
Does the ninja have a name?
The ninja does not have a name.
We should name the ninja.
We can name the ninja.
What should we name it? Jackie? No,
yes.
That's so selfish.
Yeah, it might be good if it applies to both genders. So it might be
Jackie.
Smart. Yeah. Okay. That could work.
Jackie the ninja. Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Or maybe we want some alliteration. So it could be like with an N instead.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like also with rebrands, though, comes like an evolution of the mission or vision for companies and teams. Is that true in this case?
So the mission has expanded a lot. Initially, on a high level, it was always to create the best financial ecosystem by decentralization. But today, what we didn't realize when we had first started in 2018 is we would appeal to so many different audiences beyond just traders, beyond just your everyday users. We actually saw lots of larger institutions coming in and using us, guys like Selene, IMC, even large Web2 funds like Jump, like actually trading on this platform. On top of that, we have a lot of different people wanting to tokenize assets, lots of developers coming. So the best way we thought about the vision now is it's the future of finance and the future starts here. So it's a much more robust and a much more inclusive vision that includes all of these different audiences. I think that's the best way to sort of explain the expansion and vision.
I like that. And for you, Eric, what does the future of finance mean?
Democratize financial access for all.
Democratize financial access for all. That's a nice catchphrase. I like that.
Yeah, honestly, it's been kind of our mission since very much day one. It's like we're trying to capture, let's say, like the 20-year, 50-year vision for what Injective is going to be. And the first thing that we thought of was we wanted to democratize finance for everyone. And I think, as we evolved, surprisingly, it's been, very much the same. It's been about bringing a lot of these very much esoteric, very much hard to access financial instruments or different types of financial products that were previously reserved for the Wall Street titans, et cetera. and now leveling the playing field and bringing everyone into the same unified permissionless platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you say that, I was thinking about like regional differences, right? Because in America, democratizing finance can mean something completely different than what it would mean in Europe, Asia, Latam, Africa, right? So when you look at it from like a global perspective, how do you kind of combine it all? Or do you guys look at it from regional differences?
We start small, relatively speaking, in the scope of that, because financial access mean very much different things in different region. There's been just constant effort from many, many different folks in various industries to really increase financial access to bank folks within the Africa continent, and there's just been a lot of effort in trying to like pioneer that, and that's a completely different type of enabling financial access compared to like European and Asian regions, because this means for these type of people within like in Europe and like Asia, it's about eliminating the cost of access to the largest financial market in the world, which is housed within the US. It's about really leveling the playing field for individuals that are sitting at home trying to gain exposure to financial assets versus very well established, well funded proprietary trading firms, investment firms with a lot of money on legal compliance setup to be able to access all the products that they want. Mm-hmm. And so we got to fight our battle one by one.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I also saw last week that Injective announced that it was going to add EVM support, essentially opening up the door to other chains being integrated into Injective. What was kind of the decision behind that? Are you guys feeling multi-chain? Are you feeling expansive and generous, or what's the thesis?
It's a little bit of both.
Right.
EVM has always been part of our identity, and it's within our blood because the way the Injective blockchain is designed is that it supports EIP 712 sign type data. And what this enables is for any type of Ethereum wallets like MetaMask and these days also Phantom, etc., to be able to seamlessly interact via the Ethereum mainnet on Injective. And this is already a bit of a glimpse on our future roadmap and now EVM, because we're trying to expand that even further by allowing native applications to seamlessly interop and also deploy on top of Injective, and completely taking advantage of the composability and the innate multi-VM environment setup that Injective has.
Mm-hmm. How do you see this implementation improving the Injective ecosystem, and then on the other hand, improving the Ethereum ecosystem?
So what makes Injective truly unique is the native modules that are extremely high performant and optimized. And some of these include these financial modules like the exchange module, which houses on-chain order book for spot and derivatives that's front-running resistant. And also a lot of different other modules like Oracle module, binary options, et cetera, et cetera. And what this enables for Ethereum developers to directly tap into these type of modules via their common EVM interface, and to have the full interoperability to access the performance that's enabled by Injective, but at the same time, using the environment and using their existing tech stack that they're familiar with, and taking advantage of the latest and greatest innovations with EVM, like AA, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Are there any partnerships or integrations that are incoming as a result of this?
There's a lot. I would say EVM has most of the mind share, like Eric was saying. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the deployments, before we were a WASM-based platform, so we had kind of dominated that part where we got a lot of different institutions, a lot of different dApps deploying. But now with EVM, what you're going to see is an explosion in the ecosystem in general, whether it be sort of new applications going live that you couldn't have before, because now they can access the liquidity from the WASM side. They can also compose between the different apps, like Eric was saying, between WASM and EVM. But also, most interestingly, a lot of the institutions only ever develop on the EVM. So a lot of the tokenization you're seeing, a lot of the real world assets are mainly on the EVM. Mm-hmm. I can't say much, but there's a lot of interesting sort of tokenization opportunities coming and deploying on the EVM layer itself. And we're going to be rolling out this news over the coming months.
Is there specific sectors that you'd like to see innovation or integrations on?
Yeah, I would say first of all, our bread and butter is the exchange. We want to see a lot more tokenization, a lot more assets being deployed on this exchange. So imagine being able to trade any native asset from any chain, whether it be an ERC20 token, a CW20 token, whether it's coming from Solana, whether it's coming from Arbitrum, it can all be housed under this one exchange. And on top of that, we also want to see a lot of real world assets getting tokenized, which I'm sure we'll get into later on as well. But different sort of real world assets, different equities, different indices, all being housed and tokenized on this one platform. And most interestingly, you should be able to access an on-ramp from any fiat pair, any wallet. So whether you're using sort of MetaMask or Phantom or Kepler, you can sort of use Injective and access these different assets. That's what I think would be the most interesting, because I don't think an end user cares about EVM or WASM, to be quite frank. What they care about is just access to different applications and different assets as easily as possible.
Right. Yeah. When is the mainnet launch for this?
Yeah.
Good question.
Later this year.
Later this year.
It's always a hard question because there's very limited information I'm allowed to share publicly.
Okay.
But developers are already trying out this EVM on testnet right now. There's probably 20 applications that are being built right now on this developer testnet.
That was quick.
Well, we've been building it for over a year now.
Okay.
So it's a lot of like internal building, but we take our time in terms of announcing because we don't want to announce for the sake of announcing. We want to announce when it's live. So last week when we announced the EVM, it was actually live and being used already for at least 2 months prior. And we are going to roll out the public testnet in the coming months, and then mainnet will follow very shortly after. So that's sort of going to be the process.
Okay.
But you will get it this year for sure.
We'll talk about it once it's live, I'm sure.
Yes.
We'll definitely get into that. I think, you brought up tokenization, and I think there's a lot of on-chain activity right now, especially on the AI front. I know recently Injective also launched the Helix AI Index, which you could explain. What's the long acronym for it? AI Index Perpetual Market?
So we like to call it AIX. That's the easiest way to understand
way easier
it.
than
AI
you
Index,
said, yeah.
right?
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you a quick summary and then Eric can chime in. The easiest way to think about it is the first index product that actually combines stocks and crypto tokens together. So what we did is we took some of the largest AI companies out there. So let's say Palantir or NVIDIA. And then we also took some of the largest AI tokens out there, like Fetch AI, BitTensor, INJ, and we sort of put it into one index product. And it's sort of designed similarly to other indices you might be familiar with, like let's say the S&P 500, et cetera, where you take the different market caps, apply a weighting to each of the different market caps and create one cohesive product out of it. It's the first time that anyone as far as I know, has combined sort of crypto tokens and also stocks into one structured product. But I'll let Eric chime in and sort of explain the inner workings.
Who can access it? Like, is it for everyone?
Yes. So of course we geo-block the US because the regulatory environment is still not perfect. But yes, theoretically everyone can access it via one of our premier dexes, which is Helix. So you can go on there and trade this product right now. Okay.
Eric, what was kind of the decision behind this?
Yeah, I think basically being able to tokenize real world assets or creating products, whether it be derivatives, whether it be spot, that mirrors or tracks things that are happening in the real world has always been a passion and a dream for us. We've started experimenting with it with the Tesla stocks and also the GameStop stocks, like back in the day, creating derivative product that tracks those products. And unfortunately, due to like various regulatory environment issues and compliance issues, we couldn't really bring it to light and bring it to like in front of everyone. But now there's been a bit of a paradigm shift in terms of the regulatory environment. There's been a lot more regulatory clarity through, the really good people that are fighting the court cases and through the friendlier administration and also the regulation that's coming out. It's been a very exciting time for us. And we even heard, Larry Fink saying that he wants to see SEC approving more and more tokenized equities, stocks, and bonds. We also heard from like Jerome Powell saying that there's an encouragement for banks, et cetera, to take on crypto and serve it to their clients. So as part of this paradigm shift within the regulatory environment, we decided to create like a index that we've always wanted to do for a very long time, and adding like a bit of a Helix twist to it, because there's always been AI indexes within the stock market. It's not necessarily extremely frequently traded because there's a very interesting problem there, which is a lot of the giants within the current AI space are either basically like private company, or AI is not necessarily their primary business line. For giants like Microsoft, Google, and Meta, it's only part of their multi-pronged business line, so you don't necessarily get the full performance and exposure. And on the other hand, crypto loves volatility. There's also a lot of very much AI-centric tokens and projects like BitSensor and INJ that have devoted like much larger share of their resources and focus on the AI vertical. So what this creates is a balanced distribution of both the equity exposure, which allows for much more direct exposure to real world volatility, et cetera, and also the crypto twist to it, which allows for an extra spice on top. What makes this interesting is that the Web3 people loves to get some like on-chain like traditional asset exposure. And then the TradFi people will love to get some, like an on-chain exposure as well. So it's a perfect marriage.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the demand was for something like this, especially from the institutional side. And then I feel like people in crypto are always interested and intrigued by new novel ideas. So maybe they're already in on it. But what about the institution?
Yeah, we've already seen institutions market making and providing liquidity and trading massive size for this particular market. And I would say that, since it's on chain, so we don't exactly know who's buying or interacting with it, but I can easily tell that there's been already a couple of TradFi firms that are allocating towards it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then how do you think the tokenization of assets and ownership model flows kind of across other areas into DeFi, gaming, et cetera, beyond just maybe AI? Are there more growth opportunities that you guys are eyeing?
I think the biggest growth opportunity is always going to be DeFi, because that's what most of these institutional sort of sectors are focused on. But I think the interesting thing that many people miss is DeFi is great, but most institutions will not touch it because it is not compliant. It's accessible, unfortunately, by everyone, right? For them, it's unfortunate. For us, it's great. So what's important to understand is having a platform that's capable of sort of adding those compliant guards or rails is very important for people to come and interact, because technologically, we've had these innovations for many, many years. Like DeFi has existed, in my opinion, for 7 years now, since 2018, in my opinion. Some form of DeFi has existed, even if it was not called DeFi. But you didn't really see institutional participation. Even today, institutions are touching the very, very not technologically advanced products, like let's say tokenized treasuries on chain, which is a very simple product. But it's important to understand because when you have those KYC rails, they can actually onboard because they don't want to make sure that their counterparty is not from North Korea or something, right? That's very important for them. So I think that's where Injective comes in and is very special because we created this RWA module where you can customize the parameters for these DeFi rails. So you can add in KYC guards. You can say that, hey, I only want to trade with counterparties that have at least 100 million in AUM. So having that is more important. And with this, we've seen way more institutional interest come in. And we worked with a lot of our partners to build this out because we would actually chat with a lot of these firms, like an IMC Trading that trades billions of dollars in TradFi, but they're like, hey, we can't touch you unless you do XYZ for us. So it just became a necessary evil, I guess, to build out these rails and let them customize the way they want. But I think you're going to see way more innovation in DeFi. You're going to see a lot more institutional participation as well, just because even this product, right, this AI index we built or other indices we have coming out, before we could have built it, technologically it was always, we were capable of doing it, but no one would have touched it. No one would have traded this product. But now we're in an interesting environment where when you create it, people will come and try it. I think that's the biggest sort of paradigm shift that Eric was also alluding to earlier.
Yeah. How do you think AI, crypto, and TradFi, all these categories kind of merge together, expanding this year? Because obviously last year we saw a pretty big emergence on that front. And now it's really at this point where it's a proliferation of institutions, blockchains, initiatives like Helix, really kind of pushing it forward. But like, what's the opportunity you guys see this year?
I think the biggest opportunity is going to be how institutions leverage these different tools to actually carry out their functions. So we need to be also moderate in what we expect, right? We've seen this before where they move much more slowly than what anyone expects. So right now, they're experimenting a little bit with DeFi and the rails I'm mentioning, but they're certainly not touching AI agents or the sort of ChatGPT wrappers to create their own trading agents, etc. But we will likely see some of that being embedded into the products where, in my opinion, the institutions won't actually know that they're interacting with AI or they're interacting with certain products. And I think these types of indices are a great way to start, right? Because what you do is you leverage sort of what exists today. So let's say stocks that they're familiar with, like Palantir or NVIDIA, but then you also add in a crypto spin to it where the institution is like, oh, I understand ETFs, I understand indices and how they work. Let me try out this product. So I think you're going to see a lot more packaging of products in general where AI or let's say RWAs or DeFi is going to be packaged into sort of structured products that institutions are familiar with and come and access. I'd be very doubtful that they're going to actually just go on Dex Screener and find the biggest like meme token and trade that. I don't think that's going to happen.
They're doing that either. Yeah. And I also do think, to your point, the familiarity of things really makes it more like, okay, I'll do this.
Yeah.
You know, like more accepting would be the word I would use, right?
Yes.
And then like curious.
Yeah, I think they're all very curious, but every time you get on a call with them, they're like, hey, this sounds very interesting. Send us more information. And then they have like 10 different bureaucratic hurdles to bypass to
that's
access.
The product of a big organization, regardless. I see that in crypto too. Maybe not on that, but Eric, you announced, in the announcement, you said that over $45 billion have already been processed for Helix. That's a lot of money. Where do you see this number going?
Doing that in a day.
Like, let's say over the next year.
Hopefully doing that in a day.
Oh, in a day. Oh my God, that's what you said. I was like, wow, okay. What do you think it's going to take to get to that?
I think it's about, honestly, like growing the product stack, improving the overall infrastructure, listening to the users, bringing out features and products like the AIX index that people want. And really, at the end of the day, like making sure the users are always in the first place.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like in general, for the Injective community and then those who are observing it as well, they could see that AI is like the forefront of what you guys are focusing on right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's how I see things.
I think the best way to understand it is Injective is and always will be focused on finance. I think AI is just going to be a sub-vertical within that. So we're not touching all of AI, to be quite candid, right? What we want to focus on is AI agents that, let's say, focus on trading or trend following, or we will build out the module. Injective is known for all of these innovative modules that you can use or plug and play to create your own sort of applications or dApps. So we will always focus on that. So giving people the tool sets to create their products. I don't think we're focused only
maybe
on
like
AI.
DeFi, you know what I mean? DeFi, like DeFi AI. I don't know how to say it.
I think that's, I know. I'm not the biggest fan of the acronym, but I think it's DeFi. But great. I saw it trending on X, so I guess that's the term people are going with. I would say, but that's a great point you bring up because it's a sub-vertical of DeFi in my opinion. So Injective, the way to think about it is, let's say finance sits at the top or Web3 finance. And within finance, there's RWAs, there's, let's say, these DeFi or AI agents that focus on finance. There's these sort of tokenization opportunities. And finally, there's these exchanges or lending protocols being built. It's all under this one umbrella of finance. I think we just want to be optimized for that stack. And if people want to utilize our AI agent module to create new AI agents that focus on trading, that's great. But if someone is going to come and say, hey, we want to build the next big metaverse, Injective is probably not the right place for that.
That's fair. Okay. I didn't mean like you guys are just AI. It's just like there's a big push in the AI front from a finance perspective.
Correct. Because we see it being inextricably sort of linked, right? You can't have one without the other. You see that with technological progress in general, where as one innovation comes out, like let's say even big giants like Google or Microsoft, as Eric was saying before, they're not necessarily focused just on AI, but they need AI to move on to the next phase of their evolution. And over time, they become more and more linked where you can't differentiate that, hey, Microsoft used to be just Word documents, but now they're also working with OpenAI to add a new solution. So I think it's a natural evolution for tech companies in general.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I also think that there is heightened involvement on the front of financial markets, crypto markets, and AI on a lot of different blockchains. So I guess the question here I'm asking is like, what would you see as Injective's competitive edge, both this year and then in the future, to really stay ahead of the curve?
For starters, Injective is always going to be finance focused, time and time again, year after year. And I think that's going to be our perpetual edge. No matter what type of new technology or new type of scaling solution that comes out, it's always going to be towards a generalized approach. They're always trying to scale like everything all at once. Whereas for Injective's case, the easiest thing to do is to adopt the latest and greatest scaling solution, as well as the scaling solutions that we're working on ourselves, and adding a financial focused twist on it. So no matter what type of transaction there is, no matter what type of need, you won't be able to find a faster or more decentralized solution than what you find on Injective.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of the AI agent talk right now, if you're on crypto Twitter, you see all the love and excitement around that. How do you kind of see AI agents playing a role in the DeFi ecosystem going forward, especially on Injective, the recent developments with AI agents as well? What kind of role do you see them integrating into the space more?
So there's two verticals or like two scenarios. One is that these AI agents will just behave like human. They'll do all the measured, careful approach, as well as a degenerate, carefree approach when it comes to interacting with on-chain primitives and various trading activities. On the other hand, AI agents aren't AGI yet. So this means that there's going to be a lot of error, there's going to be a lot of supervision over a process, and there's going to be a lot of problematic issues that come when it's done at scale. So I think scenario one would happen in the short term, and as people realize, or as the space saturates more, scenario two will happen, and then it's about the true utility or the true long-term sustainable utility for AI agents, which is as almost like a co-pilot for your financial activity, and also a very, very powerful automation layer for stuff that you want to do. And you can already find that on Helix with trading bots that are going to be AI powered. I think it already is actually. And on another hand, you're just going to see more and more autonomous action sparked by just a single line of command written by some human, creating like a massive ripple within the chain.
Mm-hmm. There was also the Smart Agent Hub and the iAgent integration that will help large language models simplify blockchain interactions. How do you two see these initiatives kind of improving the bridge or gap between AI and crypto? As many of you know, the Ethereum ecosystem is vast, but it's still extremely fragmented. Are you tired of how complicated it is to move assets across different chains? I know personally, I am. So with that said, I want you to meet Across, the most reliable, fastest, and cheapest bridge in the Ethereum ecosystem. Across has over 15 billion bridged and 1.7 million users. It's making cross-chain transactions simpler for everyone. Its intent-based design means users will get lightning-fast transfers between Ethereum and L2s like Base, Arbitrum, and Optimism in seconds, not minutes. For users, it's seamless bridging. For developers, it's providing native cross-chain integration. Across Protocol is erasing boundaries and unifying Ethereum. Experience the future of unified crypto infrastructure at across.to. That's across.to. Catch you all there.
I think it's all about staying up and keeping up with the latest and greatest innovations within AI, adding more advanced reasoning capabilities, more functional integrations. And what is interesting here is that the entire blockchain space is fully, how do I put it, like indiscriminate space where the role and function of a robot is indiscriminate from the role and function of a human, and also equally indiscriminate, thanks to Fair's improvement to Ethereum, roles and functions of a smart contract. And what this means is AI has the most room to really show their true potential on chain more than any other platform. Because if you're trying to have your AI agent make trades for you on, Interactive Broker, good luck with that. Or if you want to have basically like a swarm of AI agents managing various portfolios with you on another platform on Robinhood. Again, it's a very, very difficult process. And when you are capable of doing that, you're probably already on track to make $1 billion prop trading firm. And I think this is going to be what's exciting. It's really about democratizing and leveling the playing field, but equally about demonstrating the true potential of AI using the on-chain world as almost like a playground.
Are there any specific things that you want to see tapped into this year on Injective on the AI front?
Way too many.
Well, we got a minute.
I would say the best things I'm looking forward to is imagine the vault products that we all know and love in DeFi. Imagine being able to just put your money into a vault and the AI agent sort of allocates that capital and trades on your behalf. I think that is the next step where if you really think about crypto, the main use case is either like the most successful use cases have either been speculative trading or earning yield, right? Earning passive income or yield. So if the AI agents can accomplish both, so let's say you put your money into a vault and the AI agent is able to speculatively trade on your behalf. So the AI agent itself is sort of going through Deck Screener, finding the next best pick and trading on your behalf.
That would be very nice.
That would be very nice. And then finally being able to allocate your yield in different ways. We saw iterations of that without AI back in 2020, where you put your money into a vault and the vault itself would sort of go through like 5 different rails to put your money into 5 different vaults and earn you yield. But imagine the AI agent can autonomously sort of optimize that yield where it's like, okay, this yield is going down. Let me allocate this capital somewhere else because I assess that based on risk and reward profiles. This one is better. I know it sounds like far-fetched, but I think it's very close in my opinion, where we're already seeing agents being able to trade autonomously. All we need is a bit more innovation on them being able to be capable of sort of optimizing or making intelligent decisions on how to earn that yield. I think that is the next natural evolution in terms of bringing DeFi and AI together, or DeFi.
DeFi. Eric, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a lot closer than we think because currently the trend within DeFi, especially stuff that's happening within Rolla because gas is a lot cheaper there, is you're seeing a lot of these like bespoke and also single strategy or very much single purpose vaults that are being spun up that is meant to act as almost like a tranche within like a greater portfolio allocation. And Morpho is a great example of that. And what this enables is for a lot of these single strategy vaults to be created and act as almost like a small building block within a bigger like multi-strategy kind of like multi like a risk curve portfolio construction strategy. And you're already seeing like these type of like master vaults or like like mother vaults, whatever people like to call it, allocating automatically into a lot of these smaller vaults to create a maximization of yield and risk balance. What's interesting here is that currently a lot of these like master vaults and mother vaults are like basically being run by humans or algorithms written by humans and supervised by humans. But a lot of these times, it can just be automatically created by agents within a single line of instruction. Let's say like there's like a high risk market making vault for a BTC perp, and then you want to also balance that with like a low risk market making vault with ETH perp, and then sprinkle it with some like high yield earning vaults for like a lending, and then maybe some like on-chain strategy to like add some basis spin to it. In reality, if you want to do that yourself, absolutely painful to like allocate. You have to watch over a screen. You're pretty much just day trading at that point because the vault performance and the rebalancing is just going to be painful. But imagine if you can just write a single line to the AI agent, just be like, do this for me, and then they'll just autonomously rebalance it for you.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I was curious, like, is there any specific area where you're like, no, maybe blockchain technology should operate without AI involved?
Yeah, like the actual precise logic that's being executed on chain. At the end of the day, AI is a probabilistic model. It doesn't have like deterministic guarantee of their next output. They also don't have absolute precision in terms of the field that they're working with. So you're absolutely going to require like a very precise algorithm that works within like a predefined number field to create much safer outputs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I also wanted to touch on RWA's real world assets in the beginning. Mirza, you talked about it, but we're circling back to it. So last year, oh my God, it's last year already. It's 2025. Injective rolled out its Volin upgrade. Alongside that was Injective's RWA model. And there was also some partnerships announced with Ondo, Finance, Agora, BlackRock, etc. On that front, when it comes to all three of these, how do you kind of see them enhancing the RWA ecosystem, both on Injective and then in the broader scheme?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the RWA products we saw last year that were gaining a lot of traction and interest were firstly stablecoins, right? And we saw that innovation come from a few others, Agora, Ondo, and Mountain Protocol, which we've all sort of partnered and collaborated with to date. The best way to describe these different products is they are allowing you to have access to a stable asset that also earns you treasury yield. I'm oversimplifying it by a lot. I'm sure those three companies will say they do very different things, and they do. But from a simple point of view, that's what it is, right? If you're an end user, you're able to access sort of treasury yield, which is actually still quite high due to like the interest rate environment currently. And you're able to earn that yield passively, which other tokens like USDT just do not do. So that's the first innovation we sort of saw. And on Injective, we sort of onboarded these different assets and you have access to it, right? And the traction was immense. I think Agora in just like 2 days minted $10 million on Injective because that's the demand for these assets on chain. Other products we innovated on is we saw, okay, what other sort of RWA products have demand or natural demand? And the biggest thing we saw last year were the ETFs, right? Or the Buildle Fund itself, which is made by BlackRock. But there was no way to access these products on chain. They were mainly, you have to go through your Charles Schwab account and you have to go through your Robinhood account, which in my opinion is a step backwards for where this industry should be headed. I think we should be able to access any of these products on chain. So what we did with the Buildle Index specifically is just take that BlackRock index product and move it on chain. We were the first ones to do it. So that's very interesting because now you can actually access institutional grade products through the same on-chain rail. So you can hold custody of your assets. You can pay the lowest fees. No one can stop you from trading or accessing your money. That's the sort of goal of crypto in general, right? And I think this year we'll see this flourish much further because last year, like I was saying, mostly the things were treasury yield or the BlackRock Buildle Fund or ETF hype. But this year you'll see the tokenization of everything. I think that is the new narrative, right? Or the new goal for every project.
Everything, right?
Yeah. So whether that be sort of real estate, any real world asset, equity markets, like we did with the AI index, you're going to see a lot more sector specific indices, tokenized bonds. And due to sort of the lack of regulatory clarity previously, you weren't able to access these assets. But imagine, and this was Injective's goal from day one, right? A simplistic way to describe it would be to have this on-chain Robinhood platform where you can access any asset at any time without any restriction. So what we want to do this year is really take it a step further where before Injective, you could access tokens from any chain. So let's say Solana token or ETH tokens or Cosmos tokens all at once. But now we're taking it a step further with tokenization because then you really get access to every asset, whether it be different equities, different bonds, different indices. And you don't have to switch accounts. You don't have to switch wallets. You don't have to pick and choose that, hey, I'm seeing better opportunities in the traditional stock market, so I'm going to move my money there now versus like I'm seeing better opportunities in crypto. If you could have it all in one platform, I think it would make everyone's life a lot easier. I know it seems like sort of a grandiose goal, but I think we're closer than ever in terms of being able to get there.
And Injective wants to be that platform.
Yeah, we want to be that platform. That's one part of the vision that will never change. And that was our goal from day one. I think Eric can speak to it further, but the reason Injective was even conceived is because he got locked out of his Coinbase account. And he got
locked out of your Coinbase account?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have been locked down.
But he was a predecessor. This is 7 years ago. He was locked out.
Yeah.
Wow. What'd you do? No, I'm kidding.
Forgot.
I'm kidding. You just forgot your password and
No, as in like I forgot like the reason. I think it was just like withdrawing or somewhere like that, where like they asked a question, I didn't see the email, and I responded, and then like a year later, they're like. Or actually, no, I remember specifically. It was like 2 years later.
Wow.
There was like a support email like asking for more clarification. I was like,
They're like, hey, we dusted off this file.
Yeah.
What's up? Wait, okay. So that was kind of like the impetus back then.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going all full circle now because before, and I think Eric was mentioning this earlier, we experimented with doing some of these products on chain, right? Like when the GameStop fiasco was happening, where GameStop was getting short squeezed, if you remember back in the day, but then other accounts like Robinhood would stop you from trading that asset, which just seems like, okay, you're just basically keeping retail away from being able to access this capital or this money. And then we actually experimented with launching these assets on Injective on our testnet. So we launched the Tesla stock, the GameStop stock. That's when actually Mark Cuban invested in us because he loved that. He was complaining online about how he was getting locked out and how he hates this. And Injective was actually working towards that platform. But due to regulatory uncertainty previously, we weren't able to actually launch these products on mainnet. But now we can finally do that with a lot of licensing opportunities, a lot of regulatory clarity we've received. So that's why we were able to launch interesting products like the AI Index. It's not that we didn't have the capability to do it before, we just lacked the regulatory clarity. So I think, we're going full circle. We're going to build this on-chain Robinhood platform. Like that was the initial intention anyways.
Yeah, I was going to ask on the regulatory front, especially maybe in the US market, what opportunities do you guys see or are you pushing for this year that maybe wasn't possible prior to the current administration?
I think first of all, there's just been massive opening up in terms of how banks can interact with different types of crypto firms and their respective offerings. And then more excitingly, there's just going to be a massive Bitcoin strategic reserve that probably are going to be
XRP
passed.
might be in it too.
You guys, you're confident this is happening?
I'm willing to bet some dollars on it.
That's very crypto of you.
And then also I would say one of the most exciting thing, and certainly is the general opening up of the congressmen and congresswomen heading up a crypto council and creating a whole committee to dedicate towards adding more regulatory clarity into the space. And interestingly enough, the overall friendliness towards licensing and expanding the reach within both local and federal jurisdictions.
I think what you said before, though, was really interesting about it wasn't like you didn't want to do it. It was just you were more making sure you could do it, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like now there's a lot more open doors for opportunities, both in the US and outside.
Yeah, I think specifically in the US as well, just because previously, the best way to think about it is just from our shoes, right? We've been in the US since 2018. We've had an actual physical office here for 5 years now. Yes, we happen to be in America.
Right.
And it seems like the lawmakers are actually wanting to make America the crypto hub of the world. I think that's been the biggest shift, where some of the best innovators, in my opinion, some of the best companies you know and love today, were actually conceived and made in America. And I think the prioritization being given to us and these companies will lead to the next evolution in crypto, because now we can finally have less restrictions, less barriers in terms of how we can innovate, what we can say, what we can sort of launch publicly. I think that's been the biggest shift in policy and the way we work internally as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. And there have been founders I've spoken to over the years. They're American and they feel conflicted about whether or not they could stay here or not, or if what they're doing and they know what they're doing is supposed to be a good action, advancing the future of finance and everything. And yet they still feel like they're being held back. So now that you feel like those barriers might be down or fully open, what kind of opportunities do you want to explore that maybe weren't possible before?
I mean, I have a vision for it. Obviously, it takes a lot of steps to get there, and I don't necessarily have a step-by-step plan on fully getting there. But I honestly just want every single American to know more about the capabilities of Injective, being able to get their hands on apps on Injective like Helix, being able to see in their subway and the billboards on Times Square and stuff like that, talking about the fun and also the features behind Helix or other applications on Injective, and really bring everyone on board by just either simple payment or simple a download. And I think that's really what keeps me up at night.
Yeah. For sure. Do you think there's a specific type of sector or product that would really bring in the average American or the average person globally? Because I feel like what maybe we find interesting in the crypto sphere might be different than people outside of this industry.
There always are going to be angles. And I think this is almost like a macrocosm in a sense of everything that's happening within the crypto space, given how fast moving every single narrative and every single trend is. It's the same for like the consumer trend as well. It's a little bit slower moving. It's a little bit stickier, but at the same day, it's about, what people are paying attention to at that time, what people are, spending their time on during that time period. And it really changes from day to day or from month to month.
Mirza, what do you think?
I think the easiest way to think about it in Injective and crypto in general is the next evolution of fintech. The most popular fintech products we see are products like a Robinhood for trading, or products like a Marcus by Goldman Sachs or Wealthfront, where you can earn passive yield. Crypto, in my opinion, excels in both departments on both trading and yield opportunities. So just having more consumer-friendly applications that allow you to earn yield or to trade, like Eric was saying, just by your mobile phone, I think that's the next step for an average user or consumer, where they don't need to know that this is crypto. They just happen to be using crypto rails without knowing it, right? About whether it's a web app or a mobile app. I think a couple things need to happen before we get there. One, the onboarding rails need to vastly improve, where an average consumer has no idea what MetaMask is. They have no idea what a private key is.
Right.
So all of that needs to be abstracted away. That's what we're also working on, what many projects are working on with account abstraction. I think that's actually going to lead to way more user-friendly applications where users can just onboard and access things like the AI index or anything else without having to know, like, hey, let me just move it into this wallet with like 15 different numbers on it for some reason. It's like scary, right? For an average user. The second part of it is the fees and the bridging fees need to go down tremendously. So right now it's very difficult for an average user to understand, like, hey, why can I only trade the Trump token on Solana? Like, I have all this money on Ethereum. Why can't I do it there? That takes like a large mental leap to get there. But imagine you had a platform where you have access to all of these assets under one roof. I think that will be very important. And finally, the sort of like access controls need to go down a lot as well. And I think the licensing will help there a lot, where right now, even when you look at new products that are traded on Coinbase, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but there'll be many assets and they'll say, hey, this is not tradable in these 10 states. And over time, it will become accessible in those 10 states. New York always happens to be the last one that gets access. So
New York.
Yeah, great. The center of finance always gets access at the end. Right. So I think that needs to improve tremendously, where it shouldn't matter. Like when a new fintech app comes out, anyone from any state can use it. Anyone can just try it out. But I think that lacks with crypto. But I think if money transmitter licenses, these become more accessible for crypto companies and are not as opaque or as expensive, you're going to see a lot more experimentation and a lot more sort of impetus in people improving these applications. So that's my take on how crypto becomes more mainstream.
Amazing. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. Before we wrap up, I want to ask both of you, in the next 3 to 6 months, what are you looking forward to most on Injective? What can we kind of expect?
EVM.
EVM support?
Yeah. EVM is big. I think the tokenization of assets is big because I would say 2024 was the year of building for us. I think 2025 will be the year of deployment or growth, where a lot of the work we've been doing internally, like the EVM, we've worked on it for over a year to improve it, to optimize it, to make it usable for WASM developers and EVM developers under one roof. I think you're going to see that in a big way and see the ecosystem flourish. And also, like I was saying before, the institutional work takes a long time. So just the business process and the technical process needed to both educate these institutions and to onboard them takes months, if not years. And that's what we were working on for many years now. So you're going to see a lot of these sort of products come out and become accessible to end users this year. I'm super excited about that because I think the AI index is sort of just the beginning. You're going to see a lot more indices, a lot more products, a lot more collaboration with these large Web2 companies and large financial organizations that you wouldn't expect Injective to be working with, but we are to be coming out this year.
I'd be expecting you guys to work with them.
Very nice.
Yeah, whoever they are.
Yes.
No names, right? What would be, okay, so we have 11 months left in 2025, which is a very long time. We just started 2025. But what would have to be true at the end of the year for you to feel like it was a success?
Remember that thing about $45 billion in a day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that.
All right. $45 billion in a day. By what point though? Like end of year?
Yeah.
All right. We'll get there.
Yes.
We, as
100%.
in me, I'm the one
You're part of
all
it.
that money.
You're a ninja. You're part of the ecosystem.
I am part of the
You
ninjas.
named the ninja,
Yes,
remember?
There we go. Yeah. What do you think?
I would say success. I mean, our success, our North Star internally has always been to create $1 trillion volume ecosystem. So $1 trillion worth of value flowing through our applications, through this infrastructure that we built. I think 45 billion is a great sort of like goal because that's what we've done to date. But imagine doing it daily. I think, we can definitely get there because before the issue was accessibility, the lack of access to different assets. But as you do it, as you launch these assets, you're going to see new user bases come on board and trade or sort of want to access these products that they couldn't before. I think that was lacking before because a lot of crypto was restricted to just, you can trade Solana here or Ethereum tokens here, but you can also do that on Coinbase, right? Like very transparently. What we were missing on-chain rails in general were innovative new products that you couldn't access via sort of Coinbase or Robinhood. I think that's where we need to get because that will actually incentivize someone to say, hey, I know getting my money into crypto is still kind of a hassle, but it's worth it. It's worth it for me to make this next step and get there because I can only access this yield. I can only access this cool structured product or this index if I get on. So for Injective to be successful, we need to launch more of these assets. I think success for me is by end of this year, have we sort of like 10x the number of assets accessible on chain, innovative products, because then what Eric said on having $45 billion a day can become more of a reality because then users have more of a reason to go on chain and trade these products or access these products.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that 45 billion a day, 10x in tokenized assets and everything else. Eric, Mirza, thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm excited to talk again next quarter.
Yeah. Thank you so much.